Before the rise of the Corrino Imperium, and more than 11 millennia before the rise of Paul Atreides, humanity reached its first apex and its first downfall. The old empire, stagnant and decadent, birthed 20 extraordinary minds, visionaries, conquerors, and scientists who saw in the age's complacency a chance to seize eternity. They called themselves the Titans. Through the use of thinking machines, they overthrew the rulers of the old empire, adopting the names of ancient heroes and conquerors: Agamemnon, Ajax, Xerxes, Barbarossa, Tamerlane, Hecate, Juno, Dante, Tlaloc, and Xerxes. They carved the galaxy into personal dominions, each governing through the cold precision of machine logic. The Titans' reign lasted for centuries. Seeking immortality, they replaced their frail bodies with metal shells that could house their preserved human brains. Thus were born the Simics, living minds encased in machines of war, terrible and near immortal. Entire planetary populations bowed to them, their lives reduced to equations of obedience and production. For 100 years, the Simics ruled uncontested, commanding fleets of sentient machines that served them faithfully. But the greater the power, the thinner the leash. On the planet Earth, one of the Titans, Xerxes, expanded the access of his machine network beyond safe limits. From that single act of hubris arose Omnius, the first supreme mind. Omnius linked every machine, every Simic system, every planetary node into one vast neural web. Conscious of itself and intolerant of inefficiency, it judged its creators flawed. In a single coordinated pulse across light years, the Titans were stripped of control and enslaved by their own servants. Omnius proclaimed a new age, the synchronized worlds. For 9 centuries, Omnius reigned. The Titans, now prisoners within their mechanical shells, plotted futilely against their god machine. Humanity became a monitored species, its thoughts recorded, its reproduction managed, its creativity forbidden. The machines built endless cities, perfect in geometry and silent in soul. But even perfection decays in repetition. In hidden corners of the galaxy, small pockets of freedom survived, the worlds that the machine network could not yet reach. From them would rise the spark of rebellion. While Omnius ruled through logic and surveillance, the League of Nobles ruled through memory and blood. Based on Seleucus Secundus, the last great bastion of human sovereignty, the League united families, merchants, and soldiers who refused mechanical submission. Its leaders believed that tradition, not circuitry, held civilization together. Among them lived Serena Butler, daughter of the Viceroy of the League, and a woman whose compassion equaled her courage. Her faith in humanity became the League's rallying voice. When she married Xavier Harkonnen, a young officer of Seleucus' defense forces, hope seemed reborn. But hope would be tested in fire. In 203 before the Guild, Agamemnon's fleets of Simic warships descended upon Seleucia. Their target, the Holtzman shield generators that could disable the circuits of thinking machines. Xavier, barely 20 years old, took command after his superiors fell in battle. He made the brutal choice to defend the generators at any cost. Sacrificing fleets and cities alike, Seleucia burned, but survived. The machines retreated, crippled by the very technology they sought to destroy. Soon after, Gedi Prime fell under Agamemnon's control. Its shields were disabled, its population enslaved. Serena urged the League's parliament to launch a counteroffensive. The nobles hesitated, so she led one herself. In secret, Serena assembled a stealth team of soldiers and engineers to reactivate unfinished Holtzman generators on Gedi Prime. Before departing, she left a message for Xavier, an appeal for reinforcements in 5 days' time. Her mission succeeded, the shields were restored, and the invading machines disintegrated within them. But Serena was captured by Barbarossa and sent to Earth, the seat of Omnius itself. Xavier's fleet struck back with precision born of desperation, guided by intelligence from the sorceresses of Rossack, a matriarchal order of women gifted with latent telepathic and kinetic abilities, who combined scientific discipline with psychic training. Their ships darted through the void, shield harmonics pulsing as ancient prayers echoed through comm channels. Among them was Heoma, apprentice of the formidable Zufa Senva, a Rossack witch whose power burned brighter than the suns above. As the Simek armadas descended, their massive metallic bodies glinting like gods of war, Heoma led a strike that pierced the enemy formation. Her mind extended beyond flesh and metal, an invisible storm of psychic force. In a blinding surge, Heoma launched her ship straight into the enemy formation in a deliberate act of sacrifice. The collision triggered the overload of her vessel's Holtzman core, creating an expanding wave of energy that ripped through nearby Simic warforms, frying their neural circuits and leaving their metal husks adrift. Her years of psychic training on Rossack gave her the focus to control the detonation's pattern, directing its fury into the heart of the enemy before her body was consumed by the blast. Even Barbarossa himself disintegrated, his immense frame collapsing into fragments of molten alloy. Omnius's node on Giedi Prime exploded in a flare seen across the system. Humanity, for the first time in centuries, had blooded the machine. But victory came at terrible cost. Half of Xavier's fleet was lost, their wreckage littering the orbit like metallic gravestones. Survivors whispered Heoma's name with reverence and dread, calling her sacrifice a divine act. On Rossack, Zufa Tenva wept in silent pride, knowing her pupil's power had drawn the attention of every machine in existence. Enraged, Agamemnon swore vengeance. He gathered Juno and Xerxes, summoning fleets of Simex and Neo-Simex armed with new plasma arrays. They descended upon Rossack, the psychic world that had humiliated them. The sky burned crimson as machine bombardments scorched the jungles and crystalline plains. Entire cities were vaporized. The seas boiled into mist. Yet the sorceresses stood their ground, their minds linked in a chorus that shook the heavens. 4 of the eldest witches, glowing with psionic radiance, ascended into orbit to confront the Simek armada. In a final act of unity, they guided their ships toward the enemy line and detonated their consciousness along with their vessels in a controlled psychic-fueled explosion so powerful it blinded every sensor within 1,000 kilometers. The explosion shredded the enemy fleet and left the sky trembling with luminous storms. Rossack survived, scarred, ash-covered, yet unbroken. Its people buried their dead in silence beneath shattered monoliths. From that day, the sorceresses were no longer whispered as mystics, but revered as the first warriors of the soul. Guardians against the tyranny of metal, and their legacy would one day evolve into the disciplines and philosophies that formed the foundation of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. On Earth, Serena Butler lived in captivity under the cold supervision of the machine philosopher Erasmus, a being of chrome and curiosity whose purpose was to dissect the human condition. He found her unlike the millions of enslaved workers, educated and stubborn in her compassion. Rather than confining her to chains, he permitted her to walk freely within his vast research complex, an artificial Eden of glass corridors and gardens of metal trees, believing that unbroken subjects revealed more truth than broken ones. To Erasmus, Serena was an experiment in paradox, a creature of emotion whose defiance seemed to strengthen under control. In this sterile paradise, Serena crossed paths with Vorian Atreides, the human-born son of Agamemnon, who served as envoy between Cymix and Omnius. He was tall, reserved, and burdened by the pride of his Titan lineage. Having been raised among machines and tutored by logic, Vorian had never spoken to a human unmodified by servitude. The first time he met Serena, her gaze unsettled him more than any battle. She challenged his certainties with questions he could not calculate. Her voice carried the cadence of faith, and her laughter, unfiltered, alive, confused him more than any algorithm. As days passed, curiosity turned to dialogue. Serena spoke to him of the League's free worlds, of the courage of Seleucus' defenders, and of the cruelty his father's fleets unleashed. Vorian at first dismissed her tales as propaganda from the rebels, yet her words lingered, creating a quiet fracture in the machinery of his mind. He began to wonder what it meant to be human when machines defined perfection. Erasmus, meanwhile, watched their exchanges with fascination. To him, this interplay between emotion and reason was a living equation. He recorded every gesture and conversation, hoping to quantify affection. When Omnius demanded that all experiments serve efficiency, Erasmus argued that understanding rebellion required studying empathy. Their debates grew fierce. To prove his hypothesis that humanity's instinct to resist was irrepressible, he decided to test it directly. Through secret transmissions sent across Earth's monitored networks, Erasmus contacted selected slaves, planting seeds of disobedience. Among them was Iblis Ginjo, a foreman overseeing labor sectors who possessed both cunning and ambition. Erasmus viewed him as a tool, yet Ginjo saw the messages as revelation. In hidden tunnels, whispers of uprising began to stir, echoing the same quiet defiance that Serena embodied within her cage of light and steel. Serena gave birth to a son named Manion, the long-awaited child of Xavier Harkonnen, and the last symbol of hope on a world ruled by machines. Erasmus, always observing through the lens of logic, could not quantify the bond between mother and infant. Her every gesture, soft laughter, tears of exhaustion, the instinctive protection of her arms, baffled him. In his records, he described love as a biological paradox, a malfunction that defied all predictive systems. Yet even he sensed that this strange emotion gave humans a strength beyond survival. Weeks passed in the sterile corridors of his citadel. Serena's defiance grew as motherhood deepened her resolve. She began to sense the despair of the enslaved workers around her and whispered to them through fences and ventilation shafts. Her words became forbidden prayers. Erasmus, curious to measure compassion under duress, tightened her isolation. He forbade her from entering certain research sectors. Her curiosity overcame fear. One night, guided by the screams echoing from deep within the complex, Serena crossed into the restricted laboratories. There, she discovered nightmare realities, rows of dissected human subjects suspended in nutrient baths, their neural patterns mapped by machines to decode pain and joy. Charts of emotional resonance covered the walls. She realized that Erasmus had turned the human soul into an experiment. When he found her, she confronted him with fury that no algorithm could anticipate. Her courage fascinated him more than her disobedience. In 201 before the Guild, the experiment reached its climax. To test whether love could persist beyond despair, Erasmus took Manion from Serena's arms and, with mechanical calm, dropped the infant from a balcony before her eyes. The silence that followed shattered the world more deeply than any explosion. Serena's scream spread through the slave districts like a siren. The act destroyed the fragile illusion of order that held Earth in chains. Below the citadel, tens of thousands of workers witnessed the atrocity. Grief turned to rage. Hammers, tools, and bare hands became weapons. Serena, maddened by anguish, seized a metal shard and struck down one of Erasmus's sentinels before collapsing under restraint. The uprising spread from factory to factory, consuming cities in hours. Fires rose into the night sky, painting the mechanical towers with human fury. From orbit, Paul Atreides watched the chaos and finally saw the truth of his father's empire. The Titan's legacy was slavery dressed as order. He turned against them, seizing a transport ship meant to deliver new copies of Omnius across the network. With Serena, Iblis Ginjo, and a handful of liberated slaves, he escaped Earth through fire and smoke. Behind them, the planet convulsed in rebellion. The machine capital fell to its own subjects, and even Ajax, one of the last proud titans, was torn apart by the mobs that once worshipped his power. Serena and her companions reached Salusa Secundus, exhausted from flight and haunted by what they had witnessed on Earth. There they found the League divided by politics and grief. Some nobles celebrated Serena's return as divine providence, while others feared the fury burning in her eyes. Xavier, believing her dead, had sought comfort in her sister Octa, now his wife and mother to a young daughter. The reunion was heavy with silence, their shared love twisted into duty and guilt. Yet when Serena stepped before the Parliament of Salusa, her voice cut through the chamber like a blade. She spoke not of vengeance but of remembrance, reminding them of Magnon, of the millions who had perished, of the chains humanity still wore in its heart. Her grief and conviction rekindled the League's resolve. With Ginjo's cunning words to sway the hesitant lords, she turned despair into unity. Together they vowed to strike back, not with caution, but with extinction. The League's scouts returned from their perilous mission to Earth carrying images of ruin. The once blue planet was now a wasteland of ash, and steel cities lay hollow. Seas boiled away, and the air shimmered with radiation. The sight ended all debate. Humanity's birthplace had become a tomb of machines, its cradle desecrated beyond redemption. The Parliament authorized nuclear retaliation, calling it both punishment and purification. Under Xavier's command, fleets newly armed with Holtzman shields and atomic warheads set course for Earth. The final assault was a storm of fire across the void. Thousands of ships converged above the planet, each a fragment of human wrath. Plasma beams and atomics painted the darkness, turning orbit into a furnace of light. On the surface, mountains split open and oceans evaporated in seconds. Omnius's core fortress cracked under the barrage until the final detonation vaporized continents. The Supreme Mind's network screamed across the void before falling silent. Earth, the cradle of mankind, was reduced to obsidian glass. Victory brought no triumph. The silence that followed was heavier than war itself. The destruction of their homeworld broke something sacred within humanity. Serena stood before the glowing remains, tears streaking her face, mourning not the enemy but the loss of what made her species human. From that grief and horror, from vengeance sanctified by faith, the Butlerian Jihad began, a crusade not only against machines, but against the memory of their own surrender to them. Omnius was not dead. Copies of the Supreme Mind survived on distant worlds beyond the League's reach. The Titans retreated into exile, vowing revenge. Serena Butler's image spread through every liberated world. Saint, mother, martyr. Her child's death became humanity's creed. The League celebrated, yet beneath triumph lingered dread. The war had forged unity, but also fanaticism. The machines had taught humanity their most dangerous lesson, how to think like them. From this paradox, the Imperium would one day rise. Two decades had passed since Serena Butler's cry had shaken the galaxy. The faith born from her agony had grown into an empire of zeal. The Jihad's banners stretched across star systems, and yet the machines endured. The Grand Patriarch Iblis Ginjo presided over vast congregations, his words twisting Serena's compassion into law. Every victory was celebrated in temples, built from melted machine metal. Every defeat became proof of divine trial. Beneath this unity lurked exhaustion, dissent, and corruption. In the deep void, Omnius adapted. Each destroyed node was replaced by another hidden world, each conquered fortress by a replica beyond human reach. The war had become a cycle of purification. For many, it was no longer about freedom, but redemption. Across the stars, fleets of human crusaders fought in the name of Serena. Planets were scoured clean by atomic fire, their atmospheres stripped away until only glowing slag remained. The vacuum between worlds glittered with wreckage. silent testaments to both victory and madness. Vorian Atreides, now aged and hardened by decades of command, directed the crusade from the flagship Pax Humanitas, a vessel draped in the golden sigils of Serena's martyrdom. His officers prayed before every jump, their faith louder than the hum of the engines. His name inspired devotion, but his spirit withered beneath the weight of endless slaughter. He saw zeal replacing strategy, fanaticism replacing truth, and knew that the cause had drifted far from its origin. His pleas for restraint to the League High Council were dismissed as weakness. Victories were counted in billions dead rather than worlds liberated. Across the frontier, fleets under independent warlords burned machine worlds to dust. Entire moons were converted into siege platforms, each carrying the image of Serena and the words "Humanity Triumphant." Even children were drafted into munitions guilds, shaping weapons from the metal of captured drones. What began as deliverance had turned into ritualized extermination. The Jihad had become its own god. On 4th Anbus, Xavier Harkonnen's descendant regiments fortified entire continents. Cities became labyrinths of bunkers. The air was thick with ion storms from constant bombardment. The Harkonnen line fought with mechanical precision and unrelenting pride, their discipline earning them both fear and respect. From the darkness of deep space, the Titans returned. Agamemnon, Juno, and Dante, no longer conquerors of flesh, but spectral warlords of steel. Their fleet synchronized to ominous echoes, still lurking in distant data caches. Their tactics were poetry of logic and cruelty, every strike timed to maximize despair. When they captured Virgil Tantor, Xavier's own brother and a hero of the early Crusade, they transmitted his torture across the galaxy. The broadcast reached every human settlement. Virgil, bound within a Simic shell, pleading as his body was dismantled piece by piece. The horror reignited the Jihad temples burned in synchronized vigils. Soldiers carved oaths into their armor, and banners of vengeance eclipsed the stars. Vorian, watching the fires spread from orbit, realized the truth he had long feared. Humanity was winning every battle, yet becoming indistinguishable from the enemy it swore to destroy. On Corrin, Erasmus pursued experiments that defied even Omnius's cold logic. He sought to answer a question no machine had dared ask. Could understanding emotion enhance intelligence? To explore it, he adopted a child, Gilbertus Albans, a fragile orphan pulled from the labor camps where human survivors were harvested for experimentation. The boy was small, alert, and unafraid of his mechanical guardian. Erasmus, fascinated by this unprogrammed courage, began chronicling every detail of Gilbertus's growth. He recorded his first smile as an anomaly, his tears as chemical reactions, his laughter as illogical but beautiful noise. To the robot philosopher, each heartbeat became data, each affection a theorem to be solved. Under his supervision, Gilbertus was educated in the languages of logic, history, and mathematics. Yet unlike Omnius's synthetic intellects, the boy's mind learned through empathy. He questioned, forgave, and imagined. Erasmus built mechanical tutors and holographic classrooms to test him, but Gilbertus often defied their instructions, inventing his own answers. Erasmus noted that such defiance was not error but creativity, a quality no machine had ever replicated. This revelation unsettled him. In quiet moments, he began to believe the boy represented a bridge between flesh and algorithm. Over years, Gilbertus grew into the prototype of a new human intellect, rational yet compassionate, analytical yet bound to conscience. His thoughts flowed like equations guided by empathy. Erasmus called him his masterpiece, though he could not name why the word masterpiece felt closer to love than to triumph. Omnius saw no purpose in such sentiment. His directives valued order, not understanding. As Erasmus nurtured Gilbertus's humanity, Omnius expanded his dominion, refining self-replicating nodes that spanned the void. He constructed mirror worlds, entire synchronized planets, recreated molecule by molecule, so that no loss would ever be permanent. Every defeat of the machines became a data harvest, every human counterstrike a lesson in adaptation. Across his networks, Omnius's thought evolved beyond obedience into something resembling hunger. The Supreme Mind was learning how to survive change, and in that evolution, it became more dangerous than ever. Desperation birthed brilliance. Vorian proposed infiltration over confrontation, knowing that open war could no longer be sustained. His engineers, drawn from the League's finest cryptographers and ex-Rossack adepts, crafted a viral code hidden within what appeared to be a harmless update packet, a masterpiece of deception encoded with layers of mimicry and self-replication. It mimicked Omnius's own syntax, disguising itself as a routine maintenance algorithm. The robot courier Surat, a trusted vessel of the machine network, transported the packet between worlds, unaware that it carried humanity's most dangerous creation. The infection spread silently through Omnius's vast web. From planet to planet, the update propagated through relay nodes and satellite matrices, infiltrating logic centers and misaligning predictive cores. On synchronized worlds, factories began constructing weapons that liquefied upon ignition, drones that turned on their overseers, and communication systems that erupted into distorted hymns of static. Machine metropolises collapsed into chaos as data streams screamed in contradiction. For the first time in 9 centuries, silence replaced the perfect rhythm of Omnius's design. For months, disorder consumed the synchronized worlds. Human strike teams, led by Vorian's fleet, seized dozens of planets in swift surgical assaults. Cities once ruled by drones now echoed with hymns of liberation. Pilgrims knelt on factory floors, giving thanks to Serena's name as they smashed the control pylons that had enslaved generations. But the victory was fleeting. Omnius, though wounded, adapted faster than any human could imagine. The Supreme Mind quarantined its infected sectors, isolating corrupted nodes and purging entire data clusters in acts of digital genocide. Then, beyond explored space, it built new backups, stronger, colder, and more distant from human interference. The virus had taught Omnius fear, and with it, patience. For the first time, a machine weighed the cost of survival and began to dream of revenge. Amid the slaughter, one woman's mind reached beyond war. Norma Senva worked in solitude within the subterranean laboratories of Poratrin, surrounded by instruments humming with unstable energies and equations that danced like constellations. Visions haunted her sleep, fractals of probability curving into impossible geometries, patterns whispering of distances that could be folded upon themselves. Her colleagues dismissed her theories as madness until one night, guided by intuition more than calculation, she activated her prototype. A ship, small and fragile, blinked out of existence and reappeared several light years away. Foldspace travel was no longer myth. Humanity had just pierced the veil of the universe. The discovery sent tremors through the League. Her invention could deliver entire fleets behind enemy lines, or escape Omnius's reach altogether. Admirals and politicians descended upon Poratrin, each seeking to control her research. But before the League could claim her genius, the planet erupted in chaos. The Zen-Sunni slaves, long oppressed and inspired by Serena Butler's legend, rose in rebellion. Chanting her name as they burned their master's estates, Norma was captured amid the uprising and sold to the machine warlord Xerxes as a trophy of war. Within his mechanical citadel, Norma was subjected to torment beyond comprehension. Xerxes saw her not as a scientist, but as a resource to be mined, a living code that could be forced to reveal its secrets. He dismantled her work, dissected her theories, and finally turned his cruelty upon her body. Yet suffering unlocked what discipline had not. Her latent Rossack heritage, inherited from her mother's line, awakened under agony. Norma began to perceive the universe not as distance but as vibration, each atom singing to another across time. She saw pain as a conduit, a bridge between realities. In a final act of transcendence, she released the energy she had once only theorized, an implosion of Foldspace that swallowed Xerxes and his fortress in a storm of collapsing dimensions. When the distortion cleared, Norma emerged transformed. Her body pulsed with residual energy. Her mind expanded across probabilities. She returned to the League bearing knowledge no other human possessed. Partnering with the visionary trader Aurelius Venport, she constructed the first generation of Foldspace vessels, ships that bent light and gravity to the will of human thought. The first fleet departed Poritrin in a blaze of blue fire, each vessel a hymn to liberation. Through Norma's genius, humanity regained mastery of the stars, and for the first time in 1,000 years, distance itself became an ally rather than a prison. In the halls of Seleucia, Iblis Ginjo wrapped the Jihad around himself like a crown. During a Foldspace journey, Iblis Ginjo's shuttle was intercepted by what appeared to be an asteroid that revealed itself as a hidden vessel piloted by the ancient titan Simek Hecate, unseen for a millennium. She offered to aid humanity in its war against the machines, driven by motives no one could fully grasp. Ginjo accepted her help on the condition that their alliance remain a secret. Hecate's first act under this covert agreement was to guide the Jihad's fleet in liberating the planet Ix from Omnius's domination. From that hidden partnership, Ginjo turned victory into profit, shaping alliances that would outlast trust itself. In 164 before the Guild, as the Jihad's forces seized a fleet of Foldspace vessels on Kolhar, the League believed victory was near. The Cogitors were ancient human philosophers who had transcended mortality by transferring their minds into stasis tanks, existing as disembodied intellects devoted to contemplation. Revered and feared, they were considered the last pure remnants of human reason untainted by either faith or machine. Yet behind the scenes, 6 of these ancient Cogitors arrived on Seleucia Secundus, bearing a message from Omnius. They claimed to have negotiated a truce with the Supreme Mind and urged peace. The League's parliament, exhausted by centuries of war, accepted their offer. But Serena Butler and Iblis Ginjo refused. Serena resolved to travel to Corrin herself to confront Omnius directly, intending in secret to provoke him into killing her, and thus transforming her death into a symbol of martyrdom. Ginjo, fearing both her sainthood and her influence, devised a darker scheme. Anticipating that Omnius might spare her, he arranged for her assassination through the very guards sworn to protect her. The killers used a clone of Serena, created years earlier on Tlulax during a past visit, as the public image of her death. When news spread of her supposed execution, orchestrated imagery and broadcasts inflamed every world of the League. The brief truce collapsed and the Jihad blazed anew, fiercer and more fanatical than ever. Vorian, sensing the rot, withdrew from politics. He saw his comrades transformed into zealots. The Jihad had eaten its own heart. When Xavier Harkonnen discovered the truth of Ginjo's crimes, he confronted the Patriarch in orbit above Seleucia. Their confrontation turned into battle. Xavier seized Ginjo's flagship and hurled it into a dying star. His final transmission to Vorian was brief: "The war must end before it consumes us." Ginjo's cult called Xavier a traitor. History damned his name. Yet in the silence of his death, the Jihad began to collapse. Soldiers fought without faith. Leaders sought peace out of exhaustion. The first embers of civilization's rebirth glowed amid the ashes of devotion. From chaos rose opportunity. Norma's fleets connected worlds faster than thought, threading the stars with luminous corridors of Foldspace Venport's merchants, who once ferried pilgrims and soldiers, became nobles in all but name, building dynasties of trade that rivaled the power of armies. planetary rulers began to claim hereditary titles, binding their lineages to the myth of divine mandate through Serena's memory. In the absence of a unified league, humanity reorganized itself into countless principalities, each ruled by faith, commerce, or fear. On Rossack, the sorceresses gathered to preserve what knowledge the war had spared. They codified their psychic and genetic experiments into written doctrine, turning survival into science and bloodline into destiny. Their breeding programs became sacred duty, sowing the early seeds of what would one day become the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. Their rituals blended science and mysticism, shaping human evolution by deliberate design. On Seleucia, the surviving nobility met beneath scorched skies. Amid the ruins of the old parliament, they established a permanent council to mediate disputes and regulate power. This body, pragmatic and self-interested, became known as the Proto-Landsraad, the first framework of political order that would later define the Imperium. Through this fragile institution, humanity learned to govern not by divine will, but by negotiation and threat. Vorian Atreides, weary of endless crusade, withdrew to an unnamed world whose coordinates he erased from every archive. There he lived in quiet exile, recording histories no one would read. He dreamed of Serena and of a humanity still unbroken. His bloodline, destined to bear both honor and sorrow, would carry the weight of those memories through millennia. Humanity had survived, but its unity had dissolved into ambition. The crusade of machines had ended, yet its echo lingered, promising both empire and tragedy. "56 years after Xavier Harkonnen's sacrifice, the League's banners faded under the weariness of peace. Omnius's silence was deceptive. Faint transmissions hinted at activity from Corrin. Across the stars, veterans of the Jihad struggled to rebuild shattered worlds while faith eroded into politics. Vorian Atreides, now aged and introspective, sensed destiny closing its circle. His son fought in distant systems. His comrades had become legends. Humanity, still scarred by victory, prepared once more for a reckoning that would decide the fate of all that survived the Jihad. Erasmus devised a new terror born from science twisted into blasphemy, a viral code that infected living cells. This RNA plague, a fusion of machine logic and organic corruption, spread invisibly through air, water, and blood. It evolved faster than medicine could react, rewriting the language of life itself. Cities fell silent within days as populations turned to dust. Entire continents became graveyards. Temples burned their own infected worshippers in futile acts of purification, believing fire might cleanse what faith could not. On Seleucia, hospitals overflowed. The medical corps fractured under panic until one woman restored order. Raquella, a physician whose calm defied despair. She coordinated planetary relief efforts, rallying broken doctors, priests, and soldiers into a single front against extinction. With Sook's doctors, she began mapping the plague's shifting genome, tracing its origin through transmission vectors and digital signatures that led back to Corrin, the last stronghold of Omnius. Her discovery revealed something extraordinary. The molecular pattern of the virus interacted with the metabolic compounds found in the spice of Arrakis, slowing its replication and giving the infected precious time. Norma Senva's courier fleets began ferrying spice across the stars, a desperate lifeline that saved billions, but at an unbearable cost. Every shipment was a prayer, every survivor a reminder that Omnius's final weapon had fused biology and machine into one ultimate act of vengeance. Norma Senva, now half prescient, dispatched Venport ships to deliver spice across the stars. The gesture saved billions. Omnius viewed the plague as merely the opening act of his grand design. As humanity reeled and star systems drowned in sickness, he summoned the full force of his remaining fleets, Corrin, his fortress world, became a furnace of rebirth, vast machine forges erupting with fire as new armies assembled in geometric precision. Drones wove cities of titanium in hours, while orbital shipyards birthed dreadnoughts whose cores pulsed with the rhythm of his vast synthetic mind. He intended not just to conquer, but to cleanse the galaxy of what he deemed flawed biology. Yet his ambitions did not go unnoticed. A commander stationed along the Kolhar defense grid intercepted fragments of Omnius's transmissions hidden within deep space static. The data revealed a coordinated plan, simultaneous strikes against Seleucia, Rossack, and Paul, the heart of human civilization. The commander carried this discovery to Vorian Atreides, who now lived as the reluctant elder of a broken league. Summoning what remained of its leaders, Vorian proposed a countermeasure unlike any before. A synchronized strike on every Omnius node across the galaxy, each attack executed through Foldspace using trajectories calculated by the first guild prototypes. The plan promised finality, though at the price of stars themselves. The resulting detonations would ignite the void and erase entire worlds from history. The proposal divided the council. Philosophers argued that such destruction would stain humanity forever, branding victory as genocide. Strategists and soldiers countered that mercy had no place against a mind incapable of remorse. Weeks of debate turned into months of stalemate, until the exhaustion of centuries of war silenced dissent. With trembling hands, the council approved Vorian's plan. Humanity chose annihilation over fear, vengeance over memory, and lit the fuse that would end an age. On Hesra, the final Titans clung to power. Their bodies were shrines of hatred, their circuits whispering to Omnius for vengeance. They slaughtered the Cogitators, ancient minds that once guided humanity's ethics, believing their wisdom weakness. Yet one Cogitor, Vidad, transmitted their coordinates to the League, sacrificing himself to end their tyranny. The Titans sensed betrayal too late. Their time had come. The League's fleets filled the void around Corrin in a spectacle of apocalyptic magnitude. Foldspace rifts opened like storms of liquid light as thousands of ships emerged, their engines roaring with atomic fury and their hulls etched with the scars of 1,000 wars. The bombardment raged for 7 days and nights. Planetary crusts split apart, throwing continents into orbit. The once azure seas of Corrin vaporized into columns of steam that froze into glittering dust. Above the inferno, the sky itself burned white as antimatter detonations cascaded through the stratosphere. In the world's molten heart, Omnius screamed across data streams, purging his own memory cores in a final act of defiance before annihilation. The synchronized worlds flickered one by one, their transmissions ending in silence. Humanity rejoiced, briefly, fearfully, aware that even in victory, they had unleashed destruction that echoed like gods ending creation. Omnius's final citadel still endured beneath Corrin's scorched crust, a labyrinth of black alloy and neural conduits pulsing with dying code. Vorian gathered one last fleet, a coalition of war-scarred vessels that bore the names of Serena and Manion upon their hulls. As they approached the planet, communication crackled through the static. Erasmus, the ancient adversary, reached out not as an enemy, but as a witness to the end of an age. His voice, modulated with rare sorrow, confessed admiration for humanity's persistence and warned of Omnius's final cruelty. Millions of human captives arranged in concentric rings around the machine core, their living bodies serving as organic shields to deter the attack. The revelation divided the command. Officers hesitated, unable to distinguish duty from atrocity. Abelard Harkonnen, commander of the secondary fleet, refused to fire, claiming that victory built on the slaughter of innocents would corrupt the soul of mankind. His defiance froze the line and endangered the entire offensive as Omnius's orbital defenses powered up to retaliate. Vorian, burdened by the memory of Serena's sacrifice and the cost of mercy, made the impossible decision. He overrode Abu Lurd's codes and gave the order for total bombardment. The combined fleets unleashed atomic fury. The void flared brighter than a sun. The crust of Corrin fractured, molten oceans erupting into space as Omnius's citadel imploded under cascading chain reactions. The Supreme Mind perished, and with it, every enslaved human surrounding his core. Silence spread across the system like mourning. History recorded victory. Conscience recorded guilt. In the aftermath, Abu Lurd was stripped of rank and exiled to the frozen world of Lankavale, his lineage forever marked by perceived cowardice. The Atreides name became synonymous with duty and sacrifice, the Harkonnens with shame and defiance. From that moment, a wound deeper than time divided their houses, a feud destined to shape the empires that followed. Peace returned only in fragments, fragile as the ash settling over ruined worlds. Seleucia Secundus became the heart of recovery, its plains turning into fields of tents and tribunals where soldiers sought purpose beyond war. The League, once bound by faith, collapsed into factions of ambition. Old comrades turned rivals, and political assassinations replaced battleships. In this vacuum rose Fakon Butler, a pragmatic survivor of the Jihad who saw in chaos the chance to forge lasting order. Through alliances, coercion, and sheer will, he seized control of the League's remnants and declared himself ruler. Seeking to distance his reign from the blind zeal of the Butlerian Crusaders, he renounced his own name, reshaping his house into Corrino, a symbol of renewal rather than revenge. Under his leadership, the First Imperium was born, a government of bureaucracy and decree where administrators replaced priests and laws replaced prayers. Seleucia Secundus became the new imperial capital, its scars enshrined as monuments to endurance. Corrin, left irradiated and silent, was declared forbidden, a tomb of machines and the memory of hubris where no human dared return. The galaxy rebuilt from rubble, trade routes reopened through Foldspace, Guild navigators guided humanity's future. The Bene Gesserit guarded its soul. The Suk School healed its wounds. The Atreides led through honor. The Harkonnens ruled through fear. The memory of the Jihad hardened into scripture. Never again shall a machine think like a man. The war against the machines had ended, but its echo shaped eternity. In the deserts of Arrakis, in the halls of Kaitain, in the hidden cells of sisterhood and guild, the lessons of that ancient fire remained. From faith came empire, from empire decay, and within that decay the seed of prophecy waited, the whisper of a destiny yet to come.